Hello, and welcome to the video. I'd like to preface this by saying this is by no means an attack on Greg or anyone else who may stumble across this video. I just thought we could go over Greg's video and maybe provide another viewpoint on this issue. Now let's get into the topic of Greg's video. So we all know by now that there's a bit of a double standard when it comes to beauty standards between men and women. In the beginning of the video, Greg states,
and so women, they have unrealistic beauty standards for men, but yet they'll sit there and do up their hair, put on makeup, cover everything that they have, and then filter out any blemishes. And so you wonder why women think men aren't good enough. It's because they themselves don't think they're good enough. And so in today's video, we're gonna find out why. Why is this?
I can agree with Greg that it is very sad that these women feel this way, but who's putting these expectations onto them? I think if you would ask women if they want to feel that they have to do all of these things to be seen as worthy as a partner, most of them would say that they don't. These are all expectations placed onto them by both a large number of men in our currently unhealthy environment in both media and marketing. Greg then shows this clip of Courtney reading the study.
Women find 80% of men unattractive, says crazy study. And this was in 2018, so this is nothing new. I just recently found out about this. I didn't know about it.
And goes on to say,
and so in this 2018 study, they discovered that 80% of women find men to be unattractive and or ugly. And we already know women, they have crazy high standards, far above what they should be.
This is probably because they're held to their sex's equivalent of these same standards, many of which they have been taught are expected of them from a very early age, which is a problem in its own right. Greg then quotes this section of the study.
Their ideal man must possess great abs, a sense of humor, a six-figure income, and a nice car.
This is a better example of our current unhealthy societal expectations on men than it is an example of what most women really want from a partner. Men can have all of these attributes and still be a despicable individual in both character and personality, which are arguably the most important traits to appraise before entering a new relationship with anyone. I'm skipping ahead in the video a bit because it just kind of goes in circles, repeating the societal expectations of men's monetary and physical attributes, which are fairly new compared to most societal expectations for women in the modern era, as if these expectations of men are a reactionary consequence to the societal expectations that were placed on women decades prior. Greg then shows a clip of Courtney where she says,
so I put together some thoughts of mine after reading this article of why are women so picky on dating apps specifically?
To which he replied,
well, honestly, when you're on a dating app, it's kind of not their fault. There's way more men on dating apps than women.
Which is statistically true, at least according to this data on Statista.com.
And so they're being shown hundreds of guys, and so why not pick the hottest ones? I mean, after all, if you're shown 100 different pictures, are you not going to just message the top 10? Are you going to message all of them? Of course not.
Greg then shows another clip from Courtney's video where she says,
and all you really have to base an opinion on is how attractive he is in his photos, right? If you're not that attractive and you suck at taking photos of yourself, you're screwed.
Which, unfortunately for us, Greg and I can agree with her. Greg stating,
another thing is this. Women, they take hundreds of photos. You're out with your friends taking selfies. I know I go out with Allie, and it's take a picture of me. Let's do this. Let's cheers that. It's always a photo. That one's not good enough. Take another one. Do the guys look at the photos and say, delete that one? I wasn't smiling properly. Delete this. I don't look so good. Of course not. Women, delete. Let's take another photo. Now I look good. Post that one. They have their hair done, makeup did, and they use Photoshops and filters. Guys, we take a photo, a shirt off in the change room, post it, we think we did good. We don't cover our blemishes. We don't have our hair done all professionally. And so we don't present ourselves as well as women do.
Which is a mostly truthful statement, though nowadays we are seeing more and more younger men participating in social media standard photography, which isn't healthy for the mental well-being either sex to be so worried about in the first place. But then Greg shows this clip of Courtney where she makes a very important statement.
And I don't think in-person real-life interactions are nearly as harsh. And I think also in-person interactions are much different because you're getting to experience a whole person.
Now, this is an important distinction to make because it really highlights a major problem with online dating, which is that you're not going to get the full experience of the person as well as you could in real life. And this could lead to quick judgments of the individual based off their skills in photography and text communication rather than the person as a whole. You could entirely disregard someone that you may have made an impactful connection with in person, but because they're not that good at picking out or taking pictures or are a dry texter, you don't see that they are actually quite attractive or that they are really charismatic and can hold an engaging, interesting conversation when verbally communicating. Now, Greg did agree with me on this, however, he also had some bad news for us.
And there's good news and some bad news. The good news is when you're actually in person with someone, they can judge you a lot better. And an app, they're going to judge you a lot more strictly than if you're actually talking to them face to face.
Now, I cut a portion of the good news out for the sake of brevity, but if you want to watch this full video, I think you can draw some of your own conclusions, and I will link it in the description.
Bad news is, as she describes, a lot of women are going to roast people on TikTok or make fun of you or think you're a creep for going and approaching women.
I'm not going to delve too much into this because I feel like it's just common decency to leave people alone that don't want to be spoken to. But there's a difference between approaching women as a person and approaching them as a desire. It is definitely creepy for men to initiate with unwanted compliments.
I was quite literally canceled on TikTok a number of times for defending a guy who hit on a girl at the gas station. Oh, heavens forbid you go and compliment someone at the gas station.
And this is completely unrelated to the current topic, but the overuse of the term canceled because you face the consequences of your own actions is just annoying at this point. You were not canceled, you were held accountable. He then shows a clip of Courtney citing data from the report.
So then also here, there's a chart of how men rank women on the dating app versus how women rank men. And they're clearly, pretty different.
Now, at first look, this graph seems pretty intimidating to the men, but it's only measuring attractiveness and not actual interaction and interest.
And to me, this chart says it all. Look at how men rate women versus how women rate men. And so men, they rate women accurately. It's on a bell curve, with some people being ugly or unattractive and some being extremely beautiful, good-looking, extremely attractive. But women, on the other hand, they view men differently. It's a skewed chart. Most men, ugly, and hardly anyone attractive. Does that make sense?
As you can see in this graph, the attractiveness distribution is roughly the same. However, the actual interaction is slightly ahead and actually shows a healthy interest rating, where even the slightly less than average attractive men get more engagement. But they continue on with the incomplete data, and then Greg makes a statement that I personally just cannot agree with. I included the clip of Courtney for context.
Article mentioned studies have shown this to be true for even, average looking women or women who aren't maybe that attractive in the grand scheme of things either. And I don't say that to be hurtful or mean.
And I've seen this before, multiple videos. Women who are perhaps 100 pounds overweight saying, oh, I wouldn't date that guy. He's not over 6 feet tall. Really? And so you don't work out, you let yourself go, you're 100 pounds overweight. That guy with a six-pack, he's not good enough because he's only 5'10". Really?
Yes, really. Attractiveness is objective, and grown women are allowed to have their own opinions on what they like in a man.
But if a guy says, oh, I'm not attracted to her, she's morbidly obese. Oh, let's cancel him. What a horrible guy for saying what he thinks.
I'm not going to pretend like I don't know what he means, and my last take applies to men as well. But that is a mindset of a minority of the population, and it is also just as unhealthy as a previous clip where Greg is upset that a fat woman has her own standards.
Whether it be straight up Photoshop or a filter, almost every single woman I see online is altering their photos.
I don't even know what women look like anymore. Everyone's got so much filtered, I don't even know what age they are. Are you 20, 60? I have no clue. I can't see a wrinkle. Everything is cleared out. They look white. What is going on, people?
What's going on is the massive amount of anxiety and stress that these women are under because they feel that if they do not look perfect, they will never find a partner. I mean, just listen to Courtney.
I used to use filters on my Instagram story, and I would take videos and photos of myself, and you look totally different, and then you go look in the mirror and you're like,
and so they might think it's helping them, the women, they're footing their filters, but then they see what they look like with the filter. And then when they see what they look like in the real world, they're not happy. And so your mental health goes to shit because you set yourself up with unrealistic beauty standards. You're wearing makeup, hair extensions, filters. And so when you actually look at yourself without all this, you can't get out of the house.
Again, who is setting up these expectations?
Many women out there are beautiful, don't get me wrong. So many women don't even need filters or Photoshop or any of that, but yet they're still using them so they look even better.
No, Greg has a really good take here, and I want all of you to listen to what he's saying.
We all should feel attractive enough that we can show ourselves to the real world without having to alter our appearance. We shouldn't have to use filters, Photoshop, makeup in order to go out and hang out with our friends. And if your friends judge you for not being attractive enough because you never put on enough makeup, well, screw them. They're the ones that are messed up. You do you. Be happy. Be proud of how you look natural.
Now, in this next clip, Courtney shared a post by a dating app user, but only reads the portion that backs up her claim.
It took me a lot of swipes to find a dude who wasn't hard to look at. For the first time, I couldn't blame women for barely swiping right. Is it really high standards, or are many dudes not as average as we think?
And Greg rebuttals this with a pretty solid claim.
You can't have 80% of the people being ugly. The world is a bell curve. You can't have 80% in the shitter and only 20% that look good.
And he follows it up with something that I 100% agree with.
But in that person and other women's defense, it's not really their fault. They are on social media and being presented with very attractive people over and over again. That's because you're on Instagram swiping and it's presenting to you the people with the most followers, the best stories, the best bodies.
And to add to this, the more you interact with that content, the more the algorithm is going to push it to you, and the more of it you're going to see on a regular basis.
And just think of it. Let's use the beach as a random sample. You go to the beach. How do most people look? Do most people look like they have six packs, that they're in amazing shape, no cellulite, and they're 8s, 9s, and 10s? Of course not.
A lot of you are very handsome. You just maybe weren't the best at taking photos, or you weren't utilizing your best photos as the first photos. You'd be surprised what a difference good clothes and a haircut plus proper angles and lighting can make. Most guys don't know or don't care about that or think it's gay.
I don't really have a lot to say about this besides the fact that I like it because it supports my theory that toxic masculinity makes you unattractive.
And so she makes a good point. As shallow as people are, it still can't hurt to look your best. I mean, is it really going to hurt you to try to look presentable, like getting a haircut, brushing your teeth, wearing some nice clothing? Trying to get a few good pictures of yourself from the right angle with the right lighting, perhaps with a group of friends to make it look like you at least have a social life?
Now, I understand that he's not saying this here, but I want to make it very clear that it's not healthy to lose weight just to be more attractive to other people. You should lose weight because you want to.
She herself says she has a personal trainer to train 3 days a week. You don't think that if you lose weight, get healthy, not about being perfect, not saying you need a six-pack, that you shouldn't at least try and be healthy, do 150 minutes of cardio a week, and eat a healthy diet and look healthy, that won't in fact help you to find a soulmate?
I mean, there are so many different things that go into physical attractiveness and your appearance. And I do think it's evident when people put in effort versus people who don't put in efforts.
Exactly. Do as she's saying. Don't give up. Try your best.
And they're right. It really boils down to taking care of yourself, loving who you are, and being the kind of person that you know yourself to be. And that'll be the end of the video. I hope you were able to get something out of it. And again, if you want to watch his full video, I will have it linked in the description below.
But remember this. Dating apps, they are not good.